At my son's wedding, his new black bride told me to leave, so I canceled all the wedding flight tickets in. As the church doors closed behind me, one phrase echoed, "You don't belong." Then I remembered, I had every guest's flight confirmation in my email. Count how many people were watching. You'll understand why that number matters. If someone publicly erased you at your own child's wedding, would you stay silent, or start taking inventory? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story. If you've ever wondered how far someone would go to save the ones they love, this story will shake you to your core. The ceremony in Atlanta had just begun when the bride turned to me and whispered words that froze my chest. But what happened next wasn't just about wedding drama, it was about documents, signatures, and the power to erase a legacy with just one line of fine print. Follow along as we uncover a family war that's been building for months, hidden behind wedding planning and polite smiles. The church went silent after she said, "You don't belong here. Leave now." Then someone coughed. Not nervous, knowing. I didn't stand immediately. I counted the organ pipes behind the altar, 27 of them, while my son Evan stared at his shoes like they held the answers to questions he was too scared to ask. The bride, Kiera, adjusted her veil with the same precision she used for everything else. Perfect posture. Perfect timing. Perfect cruelty. The guests weren't whispering yet, but I could feel their eyes like heat lamps. Aunt Martha from Charlotte shifted in her pew. The groomsmen stood frozen, boutonnieres wilting under the church lights. Someone's phone buzzed against wood, probably filming this moment for later gossip. I finally stood. The marble floor felt cold through my heels as I walked toward the back doors, each step echoing louder than it should have. The smell hit me, roses mixed with furniture polish and decades of Sunday prayers. This was supposed to be joy. Instead, it tasted like copper pennies and regret. Kiera's mother smiled from the front row. Not surprised. Not embarrassed. Satisfied. "Ma'am?" The usher reached for my elbow, but I shook my head. I could walk myself out of my own son's wedding, thank you very much. The heavy doors opened onto Atlanta heat, thick air that stuck to my dress like shame. Behind me, organ music resumed. The show would go on. I sat in my rental car for exactly 3 minutes, watching late arrivals hurry up the church steps. None of them knew what they'd missed. None of them cared. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister, "How's the ceremony?" I turned it face down. If someone publicly erased you at your own child's wedding, would you stay silent? Or start taking inventory? The drive back to the Marriott took 12 minutes. I counted every red light, every turn, every mile that stretched between me and the son who couldn't meet my eyes when his wife decided I was disposable. The hotel lobby smelled like vanilla candles and broken promises. My room key card worked on the third try. Inside, the air conditioning hummed against floor-to-ceiling windows that showed the Atlanta skyline. Beautiful city. Ugly day. I opened my laptop. The email folders loaded slowly, wedding planning, guest lists, travel arrangements. Months of work. 43 hotel reservations across 4 cities. 31 flight confirmations from Raleigh to Atlanta. Rental car bookings for out-of-town relatives who couldn't afford to fly. Transportation schedules for elderly guests who needed help getting around. All of it organized by me. All of it booked under my credit cards. All of it one click away from complete chaos. As the church doors closed behind me, one phrase echoed, "You don't belong." Then I remembered, I had every guest's flight confirmation in my email. Count how many people were watching. You'll understand why that number matters. The cursor blinked in the search bar. I typed "cancellation policy" and hit enter. The screen filled with airline phone numbers, hotel modification procedures, and refund timelines. Everything I needed to turn a perfect wedding weekend into absolute mayhem. My finger hovered over the first confirmation number. Kiera's college roommate from Houston. Flight 1247, departing Sunday morning. One click. That's all it would take. The hotel coffee went cold while I scrolled. 43 reservations. 31 flights. All in my name. I'd forgotten how much control I actually had. 6 months of planning, spreadsheets color-coded by family branch and flight times. Kiera had insisted on letting Mom handle the logistics, while she focused on the important details. Flowers. Photography. Dress fittings. The stuff that looked good on Instagram. Meanwhile, I was booking Delta flights for Evan's college friends, finding hotels near the airport for elderly relatives, arranging shuttle services for guests who didn't drive. Every confirmation email landed in my inbox. Every modification request came through my phone. Every cancellation fee would hit my credit card. When revenge sits one click away, most people hesitate. Subscribe, you'll see who doesn't. The first spreadsheet opened, Guest Travel Master List. 3 tabs. Flights organized by arrival time. Hotels sorted by distance from the church. Ground transportation mapped by pickup locations. I'd spent weeks perfecting this system, making sure nobody got stranded, nobody missed the ceremony, nobody had to stress about logistics. Kiera's bridesmaids from Rice University, 4 rooms at the Westin, premium view, checkout Sunday afternoon. Her cousins from Dallas. 6 tickets on Southwest, middle seats I'd paid extra to upgrade. The groomsmen's dates, rental cars I'd researched for the best rates and closest pickup locations. Every single detail ran through me. I pulled up the American Airlines website. Logged into my account. The reservation management page loaded with a neat list of confirmations. Flight 892, Houston to Atlanta. Passenger, Rebecca Martinez, Kiera's maid of honor. Seat 12A. Checked bag. Return flight Monday morning. The cancellation button was right there. My phone buzzed. Text from Evan, beautiful ceremony. Reception starts at 7. Wish you were here. No mention of what happened. No apology for watching his wife humiliate me in front of everyone we loved. Just, wish you were here, like I'd chosen to leave. I opened a new browser tab. Expedia account. Hotel reservations loaded in chronological order. Check-in today, check-out tomorrow, check-out Monday. A cascade of bookings stretching across 3 days, all connected to this weekend, all dependent on my coordination. The coffee tasted bitter now, but I kept drinking it. Outside my window, Atlanta traffic crawled through Saturday afternoon heat. Somewhere across town, wedding guests were taking pictures, making small talk, pretending they hadn't witnessed a mother get dismissed like hired help. Subject line drafted, wedding travel update, action required. My finger hovered over, send all. Ever held power you never knew you had until someone pushed too far? The cursor blinked. 43 reservations. 1 decision. I thought about Evan's face when Kiera whispered her poison. How he looked away instead of defending me. How he chose her comfort over my dignity. I clicked select all recipients and started typing. The automated voice was polite, cancellation confirmed. I didn't feel guilty yet. Rebecca Martinez, Houston to Atlanta, Flight 892. Cancelled. No refund due to same-day modification, but the seat was now available for standby passengers. Rebecca would discover this at Bush Intercontinental, probably right about now, when she tried to print her boarding pass. I dialed the next number. Thank you for calling American Airlines, this is Patricia, how can I help you today? I need to cancel a reservation. Confirmation number 77 Alpha Mike Bravo 4. Let me pull that up for you. I see we have Marcus Webb, Houston to Atlanta departure today at 4:15. Is there an emergency? Family situation. We need to cancel immediately. I understand. There will be a cancellation fee of $150 since this is within 24 hours of departure. Should I process that now? Yes. Click. Hold music. Cancellation confirmed. Marcus Webb was Kiera's college boyfriend, the one who stayed friends, and somehow made it onto the guest list despite never having met Evan before their engagement party. He'd be standing at gate A12 right about now, confusion turning to panic as departure time approached. This level of planning takes years to perfect. Miss one detail, lose everything. Subscribe to see the complete strategy. The Delta website loaded faster than Americans. I scrolled through the confirmation numbers, cross-referencing with my master spreadsheet. Cousin Jennifer from Denver. Cancelled. Groomsman Tyler's girlfriend from Phoenix. Cancelled. 2 sorority sisters from Kiera's Rice days who I'd never actually met but somehow ended up managing their travel plans. Both cancelled. My phone rang. Unknown number from Texas area code. Hello? Hi, this is Rebecca Martinez. I think there might be a mistake with my flight to Atlanta. The airline is saying my reservation was cancelled. Her voice carried that special panic of someone discovering they're stranded at an airport during peak travel time. Weekend flights to popular destinations filled up fast. She'd be lucky to find anything before Tuesday. I'm so sorry to hear that, Rebecca. That sounds like a technical error. You should call American directly. I did. They said the cancellation came from the person who booked it. Wasn't that you? I'll look into it and get back to you. I hung up. The hotel confirmations were next. Westin downtown, 4 rooms, premium view, checkout Sunday. I clicked Modify Reservation and scrolled to the cancellation option. No fee for same-day cancellation, but no refund either since the rooms had been prepaid. Cancelled. 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 Kiera's bridesmaids would be checking in about now, fresh from hair and makeup appointments, expecting to drop off their overnight bags before heading to the reception venue. Instead, they'd find no reservation found, and a front desk clerk shrugging apologetically while showing them a waiting list of hopeful walk-ins. Kiera's maid of honor from Chicago, cancelled. Then I found the email thread labeled, Evan Private, Legal. How many people would you strand before stopping? Write your number below. The subject line made my stomach drop. Prenuptial amendment, final draft. Attachment, PDF, 12 pages, dated 5 days ago. Legal letterhead I'd never seen before. I clicked open the document and started reading. The attachment opened to letterhead I'd never seen before. Prenuptial agreement amendment, dated 5 days ago. I read the first paragraph twice before the words sank in. Party A, Evan Mitchell Thompson, hereby waives all claims to inherited property located at 1247 Old Tobacco Road, Raleigh, North Carolina, including but not limited to residential structures, agricultural land, farming equipment, and any mineral rights associated with said property. Dad's farm. The 160 acres he'd bought with tobacco money in 1987. The farmhouse where Evan learned to ride his bike, where we spent every Christmas morning until cancer took his father in 2019. The fields where 4 generations of our family were buried in the small cemetery behind the oak grove. The property I'd been paying taxes on for 5 years, maintaining for Evan's inheritance, assuming he understood it would pass to his children someday. Party B, Kiera Michelle Rodriguez Thompson, acknowledges no present or future claim to said property and agrees that upon Party A's voluntary relinquishment, said property shall revert to the estate of Party A's mother for liquidation and distribution as she sees fit. My hands shook as I scrolled through the legal language. Evan was signing away his inheritance. Not to Kiera, to me, for liquidation and distribution. They wanted me to sell Dad's farm and split the money with them. Clean, simple, no messy family property to deal with once I was dead. The final page showed signature lines. Evan's was already filled in, dated yesterday. Kiera's signature was there too. 2 witnesses I'd never heard of, Amanda Foster and David Chen. The notary stamp was scheduled for this morning, right before they left for their honeymoon. An email thread below the document told the real story. Kiera to law.office.atlanta@legalcorp.com, confirmed he'll sign tomorrow morning before our flight. He doesn't want to upset his mother by discussing this now, but agrees the property should be liquidated to avoid future complications. Law.office.atlanta@legalcorp.com to Kiera, understood. We'll have documents ready for 10 a.m. signing. Witnesses arranged. Notary fee included in final billing. Kiera to law.office.atlanta@legalcorp.com, perfect. The sooner we handle this, the better. Once we get back from Bahamas, I'll work on getting him to discuss this with her properly. I scrolled up further through the thread. Kiera to law.office.atlanta@legalcorp.com. His mother has been paying property taxes and maintenance, but she doesn't understand the financial burden this places on our future. Better to liquidate now while property values are high and invest the proceeds more wisely. Law.office.atlanta@legalcorp.com to Kiera. Property assessment shows current value at $847,000 given the acreage and development potential. Liquidation would indeed provide substantial liquid assets for investment purposes. $847,000. Dad's farm was worth nearly $1 million, and they wanted to sell it for investment purposes. The wedding humiliation wasn't random cruelty. It was strategy. Get me out of the picture before Evan signed papers that would get his family heritage. Make me the villain so he'd feel justified doing it. Isolate him from anyone who might ask questions about why they needed money so badly that selling 4 generations of family history seemed reasonable. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder, ENK signing, 10 a.m. I'd created that reminder myself weeks ago when Kiera mentioned they had some paperwork to handle before leaving for their honeymoon. I'd assumed it was insurance papers or bank account stuff. Signature date, tomorrow morning. Before they left for honeymoon. Before Evan could change his mind. Would you let them steal your family's legacy to save face? Comment legacy first if you'd fight back. The prenup wasn't about protecting assets in case of divorce. It was about stealing them while keeping the family quiet. The first angry call came at 6:47 a.m. Dallas Airport. Boarding denied. It was beautiful. Mrs. Thompson? This is Jennifer, Evan's cousin from Denver. I'm standing at gate B6 and they're telling me my flight doesn't exist anymore. What happened? I sipped my hotel coffee slowly, letting her panic settle into the silence between us. Outside my window, Atlanta was waking up. Sunday morning traffic, church bells, normal people having normal weekends where nobody tried to steal their family farms. That's strange, Jennifer. Have you tried calling the airline directly? Yes. They said the booking was canceled yesterday by the account holder. That was you, right? They won't tell me anything else because of privacy policies. I'll look into it. Click. The phone rang again immediately. Marcus Webb from Houston. Ma'am, I don't know what's happening, but I'm supposed to be at Evan's reception tonight and Southwest is telling me my reservation vanished. Can you help me figure this out? Technical glitch, I'm sure. These things happen with group bookings. When your plan works too well, there's no turning back. Subscribe to see how far this goes. By 8 o'clock, my phone had buzzed 17 times. Missed calls from Dallas, Phoenix, Chicago, Houston. 2 voicemails from bridesmaids stranded at various airports, their voices climbing from confusion to anger to that special kind of desperation that comes with same-day flight shopping on wedding weekends. The hotel lobby was probably chaos too. For rooms cancelled at the Westin meant 4 very unhappy wedding party members discovering their prepaid accommodations had evaporated. Weekend Atlanta hotels didn't keep empty rooms available for walk-ins, especially during wedding season. My phone lit up with a text from Rebecca, can't get another flight until Tuesday. Missing the whole wedding. Is there any way to fix this? Then another from Marcus, standby list has 47 people ahead of me. This is crazy. And Jennifer, found a flight but it's $800 more than what we paid. Can someone reimburse this? Each message felt like a small victory. Not because I enjoyed their pain, these were good people caught in crossfire. But because every stranded guest was proof that Kiera's perfect weekend was crumbling. Every empty hotel room and cancelled flight meant her carefully planned celebration was missing crucial pieces. The beautiful thing about logistics is how quickly they collapse when one person pulls the wrong thread. Wedding planning requires hundreds of small details working in harmony. Remove a few key elements and the whole system starts shaking. At 9:15, my phone finally rang with the call I'd been waiting for. "Mom, please." Evan's voice carried that crack it got when he was overwhelmed. "People are stranded. The wedding party is scattered across 3 states. What happened?" Text from Evan, "Mom, people are stranded." What happened? The prenup signing was in 2 hours. At what point does justice become cruelty? Tell me where you draw the line. Mom, please. His voice cracked the way it did when he was 7 and broke Dad's watch. I could hear chaos in the background. Kiera's sharp voice cutting through hotel lobby noise, someone crying, elevator dings, the general sound of a wedding weekend imploding in real time. Evan, slow down. What's going on? You know what's going on. Half our wedding party is stuck at airports. The bridesmaids don't have hotel rooms. Rebecca is sleeping in the Houston terminal waiting for a Tuesday flight. This can't be an accident. He was right, of course. 31 flight cancellations and 4 hotel room disappearances don't happen by technical glitch. But I let him explain the situation anyway, listening to the panic build in his voice as he listed each disaster. The reception venue is asking if we need to reduce the headcount. Kiera's family is flying in from Houston today and they're scared their flights will get canceled too. Her mom is crying. The photographer doesn't know how many people to plan for. This is supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. Behind him, I heard Kiera snap at someone, "Well, fix it. Call someone who can actually help instead of making excuses." "Where are you calling from, honey?" "The hotel business center. We've been here since 7 trying to reach airlines and figure out what happened. Kiera's been on hold with Delta for 2 hours. Good. Let her spend her wedding morning dealing with customer service representatives and automated phone trees. Let her understand what chaos feels like when someone else holds the controls. I'm sorry this is happening, Evan. Wedding weekends are always complicated. Mom." His voice got quiet, the way it did when he was about to ask for something big. "Can you help us fix this? I know you handled all the bookings. Maybe the airlines will work with you since everything was under your account." The prenup signing was in 45 minutes. Right after this phone call, he'd hang up, take Kiera to some law office downtown, and sign away 4 generations of family history. Then they'd fly to the Bahamas for 2 weeks while I figured out how to accept that my son had chosen his wife's financial planning over his father's legacy. When your child chooses someone who wants to erase you, how far would you go to protect what's left? "The signing is at 10, he said, not realizing I already knew. "Then we're gone for 2 weeks. When we get back, maybe we can all sit down and talk through whatever happened yesterday." I know Kiera came across harsh, but she was stressed about the ceremony going perfectly. Came across harsh. That's what he called his wife publicly humiliating me in front of our entire family. "Mom? Are you still there? I'm here. Will you help? Please? I know things got heated yesterday, but this is bigger than whatever happened between you and Kiera. People are counting on us." The please got to me. It always did. 28 years of motherhood, and my son asking for help still triggered every protective instinct I had. But the farm mattered more than his wedding convenience. "I'll see what I can do," I lied. The lawyer's office had marble floors. Cold, like the handshake that would steal 3 generations of soil. I sat in my rental car across the street from Preston and Associates, watching the building entrance through Sunday morning foot traffic. Downtown Atlanta was quiet except for churchgoers and coffee shop lines. The kind of peaceful morning that made legal document signings feel like business as usual. At 9:58, Evan's Honda pulled up to the valet stand. He climbed out wearing khakis and a polo shirt, the same outfit he'd worn to his college graduation. Kiera emerged from the passenger side in a sundress and heels, clutching a leather portfolio that probably held copies of the prenup amendment. They looked like any young couple handling paperwork before vacation. Nobody driving past would guess they were about to liquidate a family farm for investment capital. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. How was the wedding reception? Send pictures. I watched Evan hold the building door for his wife, watched them disappear into the marble lobby, watched the elevator numbers climb to the 7th floor where Preston and Associates maintained offices specializing in estate planning and asset protection. One signature erases everything your family built. If you're not protecting yours, subscribe to learn how. The coffee shop across from Preston had window seating with clear views of the building entrance. I ordered black coffee and claimed a table that let me monitor both the valet stand and the sidewalk. The barista was probably wondering why a middle-aged woman was staring out windows at 10 a.m. on Sunday, but I didn't care. 23 minutes later, they emerged. Evan looked relieved, the way he always did after completing unpleasant tasks. Kiera was checking something on her phone, probably flight status or honeymoon itinerary updates. The leather portfolio was still in her hand, now presumably containing signed documents that made Dad's farm officially available for liquidation. I waited until their Honda disappeared into Sunday traffic before crossing the street. Good morning, I told the security guard. I'm here to see Preston and Associates about a property matter. They're closed Sundays, ma'am. Regular hours resume Monday at 9. Someone was just here signing documents. Young couple, about 28 and 30. This is urgent family business related to that signing. He shook his head apologetically. Special appointments sometimes happen, but I can't give out information about who visits which offices. You'll need to call tomorrow. Back in my rental car, I pulled out my phone and dialed directory assistance. City and state? Atlanta, Georgia. I need the number for Preston and Associates, downtown location. I have 3 listings. Which address? I gave them the building number from the marble directory. The law office voicemail was professionally generic. You've reached Preston and Associates. Our offices are closed weekends and holidays. If this is a legal emergency, please hang up and dial 911. Otherwise, leave your name and number and we'll return your call during business hours. I hung up and called my own lawyer in Raleigh. Bill? It's Margaret Thompson. I need an emergency consultation about challenging a prenuptial agreement my son just signed. Can you meet me today? On Sunday? Margaret, what's going on? My phone buzzed. Can that prenup be challenged? Response: if he was coerced, yes. Need proof within 72 hours. Would you sabotage your child's marriage to save their inheritance? The clock is ticking. She made him sign in the hotel bathroom, the bridesmaid whispered. I have pictures. Jessica Chen sat across from me in the hotel bar, nursing a mimosa she'd ordered to calm her nerves. She was one of Kiera's Rice University friends, a bridesmaid who'd managed to catch a red-eye from San Francisco after her original flight got cancelled. Lucky timing, or maybe the universe providing exactly the witness I needed. You were there when he signed the prenup? Not the real one. That was this morning at some law office. But Thursday night, after the rehearsal dinner, Kiera made him sign some kind of paperwork in the hotel bathroom while everyone else was at the bar downstairs. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos from the rehearsal dinner. Wedding party shots, toasts, the usual documentation of pre-wedding celebrations. Then she stopped and turned the screen toward me. The photo showed a bathroom mirror reflection. Evan leaning against a marble counter, pen in hand, papers spread next to the sink. Kiera standing beside him, pointing to a signature line. The image was slightly blurry, taken quickly, probably without them noticing. I went to fix my lipstick and walked in on this. Seemed weird, you know? Who signs important papers in a bathroom during their own rehearsal party? Did you hear what they were discussing? Some of it. Kiera was saying something about how this would make things easier with your mom, and that they needed to handle family property issues before they became complicated. Evan looked uncomfortable, but he signed anyway. Jessica took another sip of her mimosa and leaned closer. Look, I've known Kiera since sophomore year at Rice. She's ambitious, always has been. But lately, she's been different. More calculating. When she heard about your husband's farm and what it might be worth, she started researching property law, talking about maximizing family assets and avoiding generational wealth traps. Sometimes the enemy of your enemy becomes your greatest asset. Ever experienced this reversal? She's been planning this for months, Jessica continued. Getting Evan isolated from you, making him think you were too controlling, too emotional to handle family financial planning. She told everyone you were possessive about the farm because it reminded you of your dead husband. The words hit like cold water. Kiera had been weaponizing my grief, turning my love for Dad's memory into evidence of instability. Why are you telling me this? Jessica finished her mimosa and set the glass down carefully. Because what she did yesterday at the church was wrong. You didn't deserve that public humiliation. And because. She hesitated. Because I've seen her manipulation tactics before. She destroyed her college roommate's relationship the same way, isolated her from family, convinced her boyfriend that his parents were toxic, then helped herself to his trust fund after they got married. She slid her phone across the table. Forward those photos to yourself. Text them to your email. Do whatever you need to do with them. There's more, she said. About why Kiera really wanted you gone from the wedding. She knew about the cancer scare, Jessica said. And she told him you were faking it for attention. The words hit me like a physical blow. Last year's cancer scare, the 3 weeks between the suspicious mammogram and the biopsy results that came back benign. The worst 3 weeks of my life since Dad died, when I couldn't sleep or eat or think about anything except leaving Evan completely alone in the world. I'd only told him because I needed someone to drive me to the biopsy appointment. Made him promise not to worry, not to treat me differently, not to let it change his wedding plans. The results were negative, thank God, but those 3 weeks of fear had bonded us in a way I thought nothing could break. Kiera had turned that vulnerability into a weapon. Show me, I said. Jessica scrolled through her text messages, stopping at a conversation thread labeled, Wedding Planning, Private. Screenshots of messages between her and Kiera from 6 months ago, right around the time of my medical scare. Kiera, Evan's mom is being dramatic about some health thing again. Making him drive her to doctor appointments, crying about being all alone if something happens to her. Jessica, is she okay? That sounds serious. Kiera, it's nothing. She does this whenever she feels like Evan is getting too independent. Creates medical drama to pull focus back to herself. His dad did the same thing before he died, suddenly needed constant attention right when Evan was starting to build his own life. Jessica, that seems harsh. What if she's really sick? Kiera, trust me, I know manipulation when I see it. My mom pulled similar stunts when I was in college. The timing is too convenient, right when we're planning our future together, suddenly she needs saving. I felt sick reading it. My 3 weeks of genuine terror, reduced to attention-seeking manipulation. My dead husband's cancer battle, reframed as selfishness designed to control our son. There's more, Jessica said, continuing to scroll. Kiera, I need to get Evan away from her influence before she poisons him against me completely. She's already making comments about the wedding being too expensive and how we should focus on building equity instead of having a celebration. That was a lie. I'd never said anything negative about their wedding expenses. In fact, I'd offered to help pay for things when their budget got tight. Kiera, the farm situation is perfect leverage. If I can convince him that keeping the property is financially irresponsible, and that his mom's emotional attachment is preventing sound decision-making, he'll see that I'm the rational choice for his future. Jessica, you want him to sell his family farm? Kiera. I want us to have liquid assets we can actually invest, instead of carrying debt on some sentimental property that costs more in taxes and maintenance than it'll ever generate in income. His mom has been paying those expenses for years, which proves the property is a financial drain. If someone weaponized your private pain against you, would you stay quiet? Don't let them silence your story. Subscribe. When did this conversation happen? February. Right after your test results came back negative. She was already planning to use your health scare against you, even after she knew you were fine. The final screenshot showed a message that made my blood freeze. Kiera, once we get his signature and inheritance locked down, we can cut her off completely. She'll either accept the new dynamic or lose her son entirely. Either way, we win. Screenshot that quote in your mind, you'll need it for what comes next. The family lawyer read slowly, duress, manipulation, concealment of assets. Then he smiled. Bill Morrison had handled Dad's estate after he died, knew every acre of the farm property, every legal detail of how it passed to me with the understanding that Evan would inherit it someday. He'd driven down from Raleigh on Sunday afternoon after I called him with emergency retainer money and Jessica's evidence. This prenup amendment wouldn't hold up in court, he said, spreading Jessica's screenshots across his hotel room desk. Your son signed under false pretenses, with incomplete information about the property's actual value and his legal rights. But he did sign it. This morning. It's already filed somewhere in the Georgia legal system. Filed doesn't mean valid. These text messages prove his wife systematically lied about your health, manipulated his emotional state, and concealed her true intentions regarding family assets. That's textbook coercion. Bill pulled out a legal pad and started taking notes. At 72, he still wrote everything by hand, claimed it helped him think more clearly than typing on computers. The bathroom signing Jessica witnessed is particularly damaging to their case. No legitimate legal document gets signed in hotel bathrooms during family celebrations. That suggests deception and urgency designed to prevent second thoughts. He flipped through the property assessment documents I'd brought, Dad's original deed, tax records, the appraisal from 3 years ago when I'd considered selling but couldn't go through with it. Current market value is probably closer to $1 million than the $800,000 their lawyer estimated. Development potential alone makes this property extremely valuable, especially with the interstate expansion planned for that corridor. When the law is on your side, timing becomes everything. Ever had to choose the perfect moment to strike back? What can we do? File a motion to void the prenup amendment based on fraud and coercion. I'll need sworn statements from Jessica about what she witnessed, copies of all those text messages as evidence of the manipulation campaign, and documentation of your son's medical power of attorney history that proves you weren't faking health problems. Bill started sketching out a timeline on his legal pad. The key is moving fast. If they're leaving for their honeymoon tomorrow, we want them served with legal papers while they're still in the country. Much harder to fight a motion from the Bahamas than from Atlanta. Will this destroy Evan's marriage? Maybe. But would you rather he stay married to someone who stole his inheritance, or deal with divorce paperwork while his family assets are still protected? The question hung in the hotel room air like smoke. Outside, Sunday evening Atlanta traffic was building toward rush hour. Somewhere across town, Evan and Kiera were probably packing for their honeymoon, celebrating a successful wedding weekend despite the travel chaos, confident that legal documents filed that morning had secured their financial future. They had no idea those same documents were about to become evidence in a fraud case. File these Monday morning, he said. They'll be served on their honeymoon. In the Bahamas. How long before they know what's happening? 48 hours. Maybe less if we expedite the service. Bill closed his legal pad and looked at me directly. Margaret, are you sure you want to do this? Once we file these papers, there's no taking it back. Your relationship with your son will change permanently. I thought about Dad's farm. For generations of family history. Tobacco fields where Evan learned to drive the tractor. The workshop where his grandfather taught him to fix engines. The cemetery behind the oak grove where we'd buried the family dog when Evan was 12. File the papers. The process server found them at the resort pool. Kiera's scream echoed off the water. Bill called me at 11:47 a.m. on Tuesday. I was sitting in my kitchen back in Raleigh, staring at Dad's farm through windows that had framed the same tobacco fields for 30 years. The legal papers had been filed Monday morning in Georgia Superior Court, expedited through connections Bill maintained from his decades practicing family law. "It's done," he said. "They were served an hour ago at the Atlantis Resort. Motion to void prenuptial agreement based on fraud, coercion, and concealment of material facts. Emergency hearing scheduled for next Monday." My coffee had gone cold, but I kept sipping it anyway. Outside, the morning sun was hitting the barn roof the way it had when Dad was alive, when Evan was young, when our family was whole and nobody talked about liquidating property for investment purposes. How did Evan react? According to the process server, the young man went pale and asked a lot of questions about legal representation options in Georgia while on vacation. His wife was less composed. Justice served at the worst possible moment hits differently. If you're fighting your own battle, subscribe for the strategy that works. I could picture the scene. Evan and Kiera lounging by crystal blue water, drinks with little umbrellas, honeymoon bliss interrupted by official court documents that turned their perfect weekend into a legal nightmare. The process server probably looked apologetic while destroying their vacation with papers that accused Kiera of systematic fraud and manipulation. What happens next? They have until Friday to respond with their own legal representation. Given that they're in the Bahamas until Sunday, that timeline creates significant pressure. Most attorneys won't take a case this complex on 48 hours' notice, especially when the evidence includes documented proof of deception. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown international number. Then another. Then a phone call from the same number that I let go to voicemail. Evan, probably, using resort Wi-Fi to contact me from paradise while his honeymoon crumbled into legal strategy sessions. "Bill, what are the chances we actually win this?" With Jessica's testimony and those text messages? 90%. Maybe higher. Your daughter-in-law documented her own fraud so thoroughly that she essentially built our case for us. Juries don't like people who manipulate family medical scares for financial gain. The voicemail notification chimed. I played the message. "Mom?" Evan's voice was shaky, probably from shock and international calling delays. "I don't understand what's happening. We got served with papers saying Kiera defrauded me somehow. There are accusations about lying and coercion and stealing family property. This has to be a mistake. Can you call me back? Please?" Background noise suggested pool area chaos. Other resort guests probably staring at the young couple whose honeymoon had been interrupted by legal drama. Kiera's voice in the distance, sharp and angry, directing Evan to hang up and call lawyers instead of family members who were obviously behind this attack. A second voicemail came in while I was listening to the first. "Mom, Kiera says you're trying to destroy our marriage because you can't accept that I'm an adult making my own financial decisions. She says this lawsuit is just revenge for yesterday's wedding situation. Is that true? Are you really suing us over the prenup?" Evan's text, "We're flying home tonight. We need to talk. All three of us. Face-to-face confrontation or maintain distance? What's your move when the tables turn?" They sat across from me like defendants. Kiera's lawyer flanked them. I came alone. The restaurant was Kiera's choice, something neutral and public where she probably thought I wouldn't make a scene. White tablecloths, soft lighting, the kind of place where business deals got made over expensive wine and careful conversation. She'd booked a corner table that gave them privacy while keeping escape routes open. Evan looked exhausted. 5 days of honeymoon stress had carved lines around his eyes that made him seem older than 28. His wedding ring caught the light when he reached for his water glass, new gold that hadn't had time to get comfortable on his finger yet. "Mom." His voice was careful, like he was talking to someone unpredictable. "This is David Chen, Kiera's attorney. He flew back from the Bahamas with us to help sort this out." David Chen was younger than I'd expected, probably late 30s, wearing the kind of expensive suit that suggested Kiera's family had serious money behind their legal strategy. He slid a folder across the table toward me without introduction. Mrs. Thompson, we're prepared to make a reasonable offer to resolve this situation quickly and quietly. The prenup amendment stands as signed, but we're willing to negotiate a financial settlement that compensates you for your years of property maintenance and tax payments. I didn't open the folder. How much? $50,000, plus reimbursement for documented expenses related to farm upkeep over the past 5 years. In exchange, you drop the fraud lawsuit and transfer the property deed to your son as originally intended by your late husband's estate plan. $50,000. For a property worth nearly $1 million, they were offering me 5% of its value and calling it generous. That's insulting. Kiera spoke for the first time since I'd arrived. It's more than fair considering you've been living rent-free in emotional manipulation for years. Evan told me how you guilt-trip him every time he tries to build independence from your control. When you hold all the cards, mercy becomes a choice. What would your terms be? Show them the text messages, David, she continued. The ones where she threatened to make everyone pay if I didn't treat her like the center of attention at our wedding. David slid another folder across the table. Screenshots of text messages I'd never seen before, conversations between Kiera and someone named Mom K, that painted me as an unstable woman obsessed with controlling my adult son's life choices. The messages were sophisticated fiction. Dates, times, and details that made them look authentic while telling a story that had nothing to do with reality. Someone had spent considerable time building a counter-narrative to discredit me before this meeting ever happened. These are fake, I said. Prove it, Kiera replied. Your word against documented evidence of harassment and emotional manipulation spanning 6 months. Evan hadn't said anything since introducing the lawyer. He sat between his wife and her attorney like someone watching a tennis match where he couldn't follow the ball. Every few minutes he'd start to speak, then stop himself and look at Kiera for guidance. Evan, I said directly, ignoring the legal performance happening around us. Do you want to sell your father's farm? I want what's best for our family's future, he said carefully. Words that sounded rehearsed, probably coached during their interrupted honeymoon while lawyers prepared for this confrontation. That's not what I asked. David Chin cleared his throat. Mrs. Thompson, we need a decision on our settlement offer. $50,000 plus documented expenses, or we proceed to trial where these harassment allegations become public record. Drop the suit, and I'll restore the travel reservations, I said. But the prenup stays voided. No apology. Just a handshake, and Kiera's whispered, "This isn't over." The negotiation had lasted 3 hours, 2 rounds of phone calls to Bill Morrison, and one moment when Evan finally looked his wife in the eye and said, "We're not taking the farm." Not loud, not angry, just quiet certainty that surprised everyone at the table, including me. Kiera's lawyer had tried every angle. Financial responsibility. Market timing. Tax burden analysis. Emotional manipulation disguised as practical planning. But when Jessica's photographs appeared on the table, clear evidence of bathroom document signing and text message manipulation, the legal strategy collapsed. The prenup amendment is voided, David Chin said finally, packing his folders with the defeated efficiency of someone billing hours for a lost cause. Property remains with Mrs. Thompson's estate planning as originally structured. Kiera's face was stone. This isn't over, she whispered as we shook hands across the white tablecloth. You think you've won something, but you've lost your son. He'll see what kind of person fights their child's happiness over money. Some victories come with a price tag. Subscribe to see what that cost really means long-term. The restaurant was emptying around us, late afternoon sunlight streaming through windows that made everything look softer than it felt. Other tables held normal conversations about normal problems. Work stress, vacation plans, what to cook for dinner. Nobody else was negotiating family futures over legal documents and cold coffee. Evan walked me to my car in the parking lot while Kiera and her lawyer discussed next steps near the restaurant entrance. Mom, I need you to understand something. He leaned against my driver's side door, blocking my escape until we finished talking. I signed those papers because I thought they'd make things easier. Not because I don't value what Dad built, but because I was tired of feeling caught between you and Kiera all the time. I never put you in that position. Maybe not intentionally. But every time she criticized something about our family, or made suggestions about better ways to handle money or property, I felt like I had to choose sides. The signing felt like a way to remove the conflict entirely. His wedding ring caught the sunlight. 5 days old and already symbolizing complications he'd never anticipated. Do you regret marrying her? I regret how everything happened. The wedding, the legal stuff, the way this whole situation has turned family into enemies. He pushed off from my car and stepped back. But no, I don't regret marrying Kiera. She's my wife now. We need time to figure out how to make this work. As they left, Evan slipped me a note. Thank you for protecting Dad's farm. We need time. Was the family relationship saved or permanently damaged? Share your prediction. The note was written on restaurant napkin paper in his careful handwriting. Thank you for protecting Dad's farm. We need time. Time. The one thing I couldn't give back and couldn't control. The farm looked the same. Tobacco leaves moving in September wind, like nothing had changed. 3 months had passed since the restaurant negotiation. 3 months of silence from Evan, Christmas cards returned unopened, voicemails that went unanswered. The legal victory felt hollow when the cost was measured in family relationships rather than property values. I walked the fence line Dad had repaired every spring for 20 years, checking posts he'd set in concrete that would outlast all of us. The workshop still smelled like motor oil and wood shavings, tools arranged exactly where he'd left them before cancer took his strength away. Everything preserved, nothing touched, like a museum of family history that nobody visited anymore. My phone had stopped ringing weeks ago. Evan's friends, the relatives who'd been stranded at airports during the wedding chaos, even Jessica had moved on to other dramas and current events. The silence felt complete in a way that victory shouldn't. The mailbox at the road held the usual collection of bills, catalogs, and local newspapers. But underneath the electric company statement was an envelope addressed in handwriting I recognized immediately. Evan's careful script, the same loops and angles he'd used for school assignments and birthday cards since elementary school. When protecting family costs you family, was the victory worth it? Share your thoughts. Inside the envelope, a single sheet of notebook paper and a photograph. Mom, the letter began. I know we haven't talked since the restaurant meeting. Kiera needed space to process everything that happened, and honestly, so did I. The legal situation, the wedding drama, finding out about the text messages and manipulation, it's been hard to sort through what was real and what was performance. The photograph was ultrasound results dated last week. Grainy black and white images that showed the profile of a baby not yet born, measurements and technical details written in medical handwriting along the margins. We wanted you to know about the baby before anyone else. Due date is May 15th. We don't know if it's a boy or girl yet, but we've been talking about names. If it's a boy, we'd like to use Dad's middle name, James, as part of his name. If you're okay with that. My hands shook reading the rest of the letter. Kiera admits she handled the farm situation wrong. Not the legal part, she still thinks we should have more liquid assets for the baby's future, but the way she went about it. The manipulation, the lies about your health, turning your grief into ammunition against you. She knows that was cruel. The tobacco field stretched toward woods where Dad used to hunt deer every November. Soon there would be another generation to teach about soil quality and seasonal planting, about fixing tractors and maintaining fence posts, about the difference between land you own and property you just happen to live on. I understand why you fought for the farm. I hope someday you'll understand why I need to build my own family's future, even if it looks different than what you planned. The letter ended, I understand why you fought. I need time to forgive how you fought. The grandchild would have a name that honored their grandfather. That felt like a beginning. The Christmas card came in November. 3 signatures, Evan, Kiera, and one I didn't recognize. The third name was written in shaky block letters, Baby James. Not born yet, but already signing family correspondence from inside ultrasound photos and doctor's office visits. Due in 5 months, according to the appointment reminders Evan had started texting me sporadically since October. The card showed a generic winter scene, snow-covered barn, warm lights in farmhouse windows, the kind of rural Christmas imagery that suggested someone remembered where they came from. Inside, Kiera had written a message in careful handwriting that looked like she drafted it several times before settling on the final version. Margaret, I owe you an apology for how I handled the farm situation. My methods were wrong, even if my concerns about financial planning were legitimate. I hope we can find a way forward that protects both family history and future security. The baby will need both grandmothers. Both grandmothers. The phrase acknowledged what the wedding had tried to erase: my place in this family's future, my connection to the grandchild who would carry Dad's middle name and learn to walk on the same hardwood floors where Evan had taken his first steps. Drop the one lesson you'd carry from this mother's choice below. December brought more contact. Photos of the nursery they were setting up in their Atlanta apartment. Paint colors, furniture assembly, the tiny clothes that made future parenthood feel real rather than theoretical. Kiera included notes with each picture, small bridges across the months of silence. Evan insists the baby needs to know about the farm, she wrote beneath a photo of a wooden crib. We'd like to bring them for visits once they're old enough to travel safely. January meant phone calls. Awkward at first, full of careful topics and avoided subjects, but gradually warming into something that felt like family conversation. Evan talked about work, Kiera about preparing for maternity leave, both of them about fears and excitement that came with first-time parenthood. We've been thinking about what kind of parents we want to be, Evan said during one Sunday afternoon call. How to balance protecting them with teaching them to handle difficult situations independently. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Protecting versus teaching independence. The same balance I'd struggled with for 28 years of motherhood, the same tension that had exploded into legal warfare over prenups and family property. February brought the unexpected news. We're moving back to North Carolina, Kiera announced during a video call that showed their Atlanta apartment half-packed in boxes. Evan got offered a position with a tech company in Durham. Better work-life balance, closer to family support systems. Closer to the farm. Closer to me. Closer to the graves behind the oak grove where 4 generations of family history waited to welcome a 5th. The baby should grow up knowing their roots, she continued, and the words sounded genuine rather than strategic. I may not understand the emotional attachment to land and family legacy, but I can respect it. Especially now that I'm thinking about what I want to pass down to our child. The due date was 8 weeks away when they moved into a house 20 minutes from the farm. Close enough for Sunday dinners, far enough for independence. The kind of distance that allows relationships to heal without forcing intimacy that isn't ready to resume naturally. Baby James arrived on May 12, 3 days early and perfectly healthy. When I held him for the first time in the hospital room, Kiera watched me count his fingers and toes with the careful attention of someone learning to share what matters most. The grandchild would grow up knowing where they came from. Sometimes protecting the future means accepting a difficult present. If this story of protecting family legacy touched you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories where love means making the hardest choices. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between being liked and being right? Remember, sometimes the fiercest love doesn't keep peace, it keeps what matters.